Good afternoon, ladies and gents. It's the 6th of November 2025. And firstly, apologies for the lack of content on the channel. So, with that, I just want to cover some important information and unfortunately, some kind of irrelevant points. They're points that we need to discuss and just get them out of the way, really. But just a quick update, guys, on my situation. I think I mentioned in my last video that over the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks, I've been concentrating on employment and some kind of it's sort of income, which has just got to take priority for me and my family. And unfortunately, that's kind of impacted the time that I have or haven't had to commit to you and the channel. So I just want to go into details about what's been happening sort of recently without sort of going into too much waffle. I won't be going into details about my sort of personal circumstances, but hopefully things should start to sort of fall into place as I kick off this new this new income, shall we say. So I'm basically going to be working for myself, and I'm not going to be relying on these other companies to give me work, because quite frankly, for my trade and at the moment for me, it's just not there. So I'm just going to throw up some articles on the screen. Firstly, just news from Europe that you would have heard about, or maybe not. We have Belgium reporting that they're now being targeted by drones over military air bases. I think it was the Klein air base, which is northern Belgium. It's up against the border with, well, it's a Dutch border. So it's northeasterly on the border there. That's the air base. But there's also been air traffic control sort of warnings in Brussels as well, and sort of restricting or cancelling flights and things like that. So my guess is there's drone activity in those areas as well. But drone stories, guys, are no longer new. We've had them flying over RAF Mildenhall and Lakenheath here in the UK, and the US had them flying around all over New Jersey, kicking off all sorts of news and speculation over there. But for me, this kind of activity is now normal. And why? Well, because for me, I believe that the larger engagement in Europe has already started. The drone warfare during this conflict up until now and sort of going forward from now is going to be pivotal to all sides. Albeit Belgium being under 100 miles away from the UK, the Klein base, where I believe is the 31st Tiger squadron based there, which is a tier one target for the enemy. Just to be clear, though, guys, these drones, if in fact they're enemy drones, they're not flying in from Russia, carrying out ISR and then flying back. There will be Russian personnel based in Belgium, the Netherlands, and/or Germany and other countries in Europe. They'll be launching those drones, from within those countries, collecting intelligence, and job done. By the way, guys, these are only the drones that we know about through mainstream and stuff like that. But, this is going to be happening all the time. So there's a lot that we don't know. Belgium yesterday, they announced, I think they announced that they believe these drones that are being reported now are Russian. So there's no surprise there. But, for anyone that doesn't know, Belgium is home to NATO HQ. So there's headquarters for NATO in Brussels, that is. And just as significantly, Belgium are holding frozen Russian assets to the tune of about 210 billion euros. Those funds are currently being held by a company called Euroclear, which is a major, it's like an international securities depository. And they're based in Brussels as well. So I'm hearing also, I think today and yesterday, that air traffic control in Brussels are also either sort of sending out warnings or restricting flights and cancelling flights. So my guess is there's drone activity in and around the capital as well. So there are plenty of reasons for the Russians to be collecting ISR from Belgium, as is many other countries across Europe, most of which are then sort of NATO member states. But whilst we're on the subject of drones entering NATO airspace, there are so many people out there still now shouting, from the rooftops about how and why aren't NATO shooting these drones down and all the rest of it. Now, all of these drones used in the UK previously, above, I think it was US Air Force or RAF Lakenheath and Mildenhall. as well as other counterforce targets in the UK, as well as previously used over Lithuania and Poland. A few weeks back, it was Denmark, Estonia, in and around about the same time, and also Latvia had not been fitted. These drones had not been fitted with any type of warhead. So all of those drones have been deployed, with a purpose, and the purpose is to collect ISR, or intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. So that's what they are, ISR drones. So NATO and the Western intelligence, they would simply lock onto said drones, track them back to the operators before going in and seizing the drones, seizing the intel, and also the operators. There's absolutely no, there's no logic within the intelligence community to take out those ISR drones, shooting them out the sky. It's pointless. It's the same as catching a tier one spy. And as soon as you sort of get them, you take them to, I don't know, a black site, and you just shoot them in the head. It's pointless. Extract the information out of out of them first, through various techniques, and and then you execute them when they're no longer used, sort of needed, or whatever. But moving on to something else, making the news that is happening it's actually happening all the time, guys. This has been going on for about a week. Let's move across. Let's get rid of this. Yeah, UK Prison Service releasing inmates in Europe, and too early before their official release date. So we, as in the masses, have heard about three that have been released accidentally over the last week. So you had one on the beginning of last week and two over the last few days, when in fact there have been anywhere between 250 and 285 inmates accidentally released in the UK over the last 12 months alone. So that is an inmate being accidentally released every 1 to 2 days a year. I was going to say yet another UK service broken, another service managed by central government. But let's be honest, guys, the prison service has been broken for many, many years. Overpopulated, too soft, and under-resourced. Guys, I work alongside logic, and unfortunately, is not a principle adopted by government, or it doesn't seem to be that way. But to resolve a couple of issues that everyone's been moaning about for years, for me, logically, could be sort of resolved instantly. Did you know that the UK male inmate population for UK prisons sits at around about 83,700 and something? So the males, in terms of population for the whole of the country, make up around about 96% of the prison population. But let's have a look. But the male, so I'm just seeing what I should be putting on the screen. You probably all read this. I'm not going to go through any of these articles or anything like that. But the UK male prisoners are operated at 99% capacity at the moment, in terms of capacity in the prisons, which is severely overcrowded. But guys, they've been talking about this for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. They've always been maxing up to capacity. And did you also know that there are approximately 10,700 of those inmates that shouldn't even be in the country? So if the UK kind of government pulled their heads out of their asses and they sent those, I think it's 10,700, if they pulled those out of the prisons and sent them back home, then they'd be killing two birds with one stone. You send 10,700 foreign nationals, or foreign national criminals, back home to where they belong. But more importantly, you reduce the male prison population by over 10%. That is 10,000 spaces in the prisons, alleviating some of that pressure that everyone's, kind of moaning about. And that's pressure on the prison service itself. So there's no need to build new prisons just yet. And the list of benefits to that service goes on. And let's cover just a couple of these benefits that I'm talking about. I've been doing a little bit of number crunching, and I just think anything, what I see as being logical is, anyway, let's move on. It costs the UK taxpayer £54,000 per year to house just a single inmate in the UK jail. So that's 54,000 times the 10,000 foreign inmates, which equals 540 million, or just over half a billion a year, just to house foreign nationals in prisons that shouldn't even be here anyway. The annual salary of a prison officer is between 30 to 40k per year. So half a billion divided by, let's go in between 30 and 40. Let's say 35,000 per prison officer. So if you've got, let's say for instance, you haven't got those 10,000 here and you've got now 540 million pounds worth of taxpayers' money. Let's say 35,000 per prison officer annual wage. That would give that's enough money to employ another 15,428 prison officers at 35k a year. So that is over 15,000 new prison officers that could be employed using that money. But let's use some more logic here. Some will say they don't get paid enough for the job that they do. It's too dangerous, blah, 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 blah. Did you know that as of March of 2025, there were 22,740 prison officers employed in the UK? So logic tells me this: if all prison officers receive, let's say, again, for the purpose of these figures, the 540 million of taxpayers' money that's going to the foreign nationals that shouldn't be here. Let's just say, yeah, you give those prison officers, the 22,500 of them, a £10,000 pay rise, for example, depending on the ratio of their current salary, between 30 to 40k. And that would cost, so if you give them all a pay rise, just to get them motivated, keep them here and actually doing a job that's worth the money, shall we say, that's 220 million, which is half a billion clawed back for sending the illegals back home, to carry out their sentences from whatever country they've come from. So that's 220 million. You could give them all a pay rise. That leaves 320 million out of the 540. So if you divided that by an annual salary, so this is 320 million divided by, let's say, a salary of 40k. That gives you 8,000, a figure of 8,000. So in summary, sending those 10,000 illegal foreign criminals back home, saving the taxpayer 540 million, gives the current 22,500 prison officers a £10,000 pay rise, leaving you 320 million. You then employ another 8,000 prison officers started at 40,000, or you could spend £200 million of that on a new prison and employ 700 paid for staff to run it. Again, common sense. But what I'm trying to say, guys, is that there's a problem there. It's been there for years and years and years, and there's a lot of easy answers. Guys, I'm not finger pointing at the 10,000 foreign nationals that are in prisons and stuff like that, but there's 10,000 of them there that are costing the UK taxpayer £500 million a year. So get rid of them and then just invest that money back into a service that's failing. Instead, though, the prison service is now being run by private security firms who are now turning to agencies for staff. There are reports of 19-year-old females entering the prison service via agencies with no to very little training. So forget about the failure and embarrassment. The UK government have incompetence written all over it. And, with that, it's just dangerous. It's dangerous for the system, for people in jail and out of jail and people on the streets. So the people are paying taxes for a service that the government can't adequately deliver to the people. And on top of all of that, we have this silly, I was going to swear, let's call her an idiot, silly idiot Reeves, stood up in front of the nation yesterday telling people that she is going to be taking even more tax off of people. And for the 18 minutes, I think it was 18 minutes, she was stood there dribbling away to the nation. She done nothing more than just blame everybody. Listen, for some of you, you might have listened to it. Would I recommend you go and listen to it? No, forget it. There's a lot more important things to be doing. But let me just summarize it. And it will be summarized in a few seconds. Everything that was coming out of her mouth, she was pretty much just blaming everybody else. That was it. It was everybody else's fault. That's it. That she was blaming everybody else, Conservatives, Tories, everybody else for Labour's party or the Labour Party's incompetence. Since day one of the Labour Party's term, they have not stopped blaming everybody else for the mess whilst deflecting from the real truth, and that is their own incompetence to manage the country whilst preparing for war. Rachel Reeves sealed her own fate the moment she done this, guys. Just a quick one on some numbers there. Foreign nationals, UK prisons, 10,772 foreign nationals held in prisons across. That represents, anyway, I just spoke about that. There's the numbers there. Get rid of those, send them home, and then we're good to go with fixing the service. But that's common sense. And the government don't get that. So let's move on to this. So what was I saying there? Yeah, Rachel Reeves. Yeah, she sealed her fate. When I saw this, that was it. It was game over for her. You'll remember this, guys. Hopefully you can see it on the screen. That picture there. She sealed her fate the moment she done that. Crying not only publicly in front of the nation, but in the Houses of Parliament. An outright show of weakness, guys. It doesn't matter who you are. Regardless of her pathetic credentials, because let's face it, she has no real qualifications nor experience in that job that she's doing. The one thing you cannot do publicly, and that is show weakness in a position of power. Mark my words, guys. Once she announces the budget, whenever that is, I don't even know when it is. She's gone. The budget has been set up to push her out the door, and that's it. She's finished. Look, she's done. That's it. That's it. Her mate Rainer um, was an embarrassment. And their boss, Starmer, he is too. They've all been placed, in my view, in they're there as an interim government whilst the UK war machine is in motion. Once NATO get into the ring with Putin, then this temporary shower of shit will be moved sideways. With one of them circumventing taxes on rental homes. That's Raina herself, whilst the other one sits there crying whilst watching, their boss completely lose popularity in the country. I don't know. It's an embarrassment to be British. It's as simple as. But this is quite a big but, guys, and many of you probably won't agree with this, but in Labour's defence, and I hate having to say that, but when a country prepares for war, the war everyone's pretending isn't happening, the government have an ultimate responsibility to prepare for it. Unfortunately for them, mutual fates arise. That's happening now. Loss of confidence and popularity, but that's definitely happening. A breakdown in services, well, we've seen that for a long, long time, but that's really through the lack of spending. And it's a complete mess on the surface. The bottom line is, when a country is on a war footing, a situation most people in the UK since World War II have never, ever experienced or familiar with. I've got no idea what a country goes through when on a war footing, whilst preparing the war machine up until 2022. So I was forced into the position of having to look back at history and just see what this all meant. On the 24th of February, when I started taking note, tracking this, looking at this and monitoring it and assessing, analysing and all the rest of it. I had to kind of look at this and look at what the signs were back then, as in back in previous wars. And are we seeing the same happening today? Sadly, guys, the same signs, that were there back then are here today. And that's it. If nothing happens, then that's it. It's perfect, guys. If nothing comes of this, and they all get around the table and they all sort of make up, kiss and cuddle and shake hands, that's fine. Some might say, well, worry over nothing. And actually, there are people out there now saying, they're saying that very thing. There's nothing to worry about. They're under the illusion that everything's okay, and they're just simply brushing it all under the carpet. Each to their own. I'm not going to yap on about that. I've gone on about it for sort of months in various other videos, and you lot are probably getting bored of it. But guys, I'm not here to scaremonger. Let's just get rid of her. I can't be looking at her anymore. Guys, yeah, I'm not here to scaremonger. I'm not here to piss you off or ruin your day. If you feel that way after watching these videos or any videos similar to this on other channels, and stop watching them. You shouldn't be watching. This is just a bit of advice, guys. If you should be watching this content, if this is ruining your life, or giving you a really bad day and stuff like that, it seems to be the natural order of things. Whether it's right or whether it's wrong, that's neither here nor there. Ideally, this is what I'm doing. I'm kind of embracing the reality or the possibility, making sure that I'm switching on point and just focusing on the job in hand. Just make sure that if this all pops off, then the impact to you and your family is suppressed by simply being prepared. That's all. That's it. Whether it does, whether it doesn't, it's better to be prepared and just to suppress the blow. We need to be clear here, guys, and just look at the bigger picture. As I constantly say, the war between Russia and Ukraine has turned parts of the world on its head. The so-called cost of living, better known for me as the recession, off of the back of sanctions against Russia, capping energy and pushing prices up in terms of many other products and services, inflating at rates now, being seen to be getting out of control, in my view. When I look at the prices of some some items on shelves, I don't know, I'm thrown back by it. The prices of some of those products on the shelves are simply unsustainable. It's actually as if some companies are just doing it intentionally before the shit hits the fan. Let's just bang the prices up, get as much money as we can before that's it. It's all it's all done because it's taken the. I was gonna I'm going to apologize about the swearing, but it's taking the piss. Some of these prices, I actually don't know whether it's because, I'm kind of having to be really tight with money and watching what I'm spending and being careful with what I do financially and everything else. Um, sort of penny pinching and stuff like that. Maybe that's why I'm kind of noticing it. But I went on a train yesterday and popped into the calf like before the train come, like, and I thought, I'm just going to get a bar of chocolate, just a normal bar of chocolate. This is £1.60. And I looked at the price and I thought, if I was a millionaire, I wouldn't be paying that. All of it, all of them, £1.60. Anyway, let's get off of that. We've got a UK government walking around simply with their middle fingers up whilst trying to hide their own sort of emotions and not showing panic. You only have to look at Rachel Reeves. She looks broken and just out of control. And as soon as she opens her mouth, the noose around her neck is going to tighten. The budget, that's it. That's it. Once she was crying in front of everybody in Parliament and on the public domain there, come out of a budget that everyone's going to absolutely hammer you with, and the only way to do that is just put income tax up, which is exactly what she's going to do because she needs to be ousted out. She'll be moved sideways, and that's it. But anyway, guys, let's move on to another subject. Many, for obvious reasons, would rather push under the carpet, and that is nukes. I just want to cover this sort of quickly. This is not apocalypse, end of the world, and all the rest of it, guys. I won't go into too much detail about this, but just you just got to be in the right mindset for what's being spoken about. Now, this is not being spoken about on mainstream. They won't talk about. They just won't talk about nuclear weapons. Full stop. But you will be hearing on other platforms out there about nuclear weapons testing. Okay, this is testing. This is not, lobbing them across to your neighbors and stuff like that. I've done videos, guys, on nuclear threats and weapons protection and scenarios. I believe, and this is only me, this is only what I believe, and this is just my view, but I believe, and I've said it before, that nukes will be used in Europe or the European engagement, but tactical nukes. So specifically designed to tactically take out a strategic target. However, I don't believe that any of this, nor other conflicts around the world, will result in the use of mass destruction nuclear weapons. So I just wanted to make myself clear before I kind of carry on with this. I've only a couple of minutes, guys, and then we're done. The use of tactical weapons, they're smaller. They've got smaller warheads on smaller missiles, specifically designed to take out counter force, which are military targets, or sort of counter value commercial targets. So most tactical nukes, they will be airburst type, meaning they detonate above the target and not on the ground. So therefore, no fallout cloud. A ground burst detonation is more of a concern for you and I because of the radioactive fallout cloud produced, from the explosion on the ground. I'm not going to go into it, but most tactical nukes are nowadays now designed to be airburst because the enemy is not targeting normal everyday people like you and I specifically. They're targeting the threats. So that's military bases and assets. However, adversaries will target everyday people through the means of hybrid warfare. And that would be things like cyber attacks, which we've seen plenty of, sabotages, whether that's undersea cables, whatever, and assassinations or attempted assassinations, of which we probably won't hear about at all, but it's happening. Um, Taking out critical infrastructure. I've spoken about this: electricity, water, telecommunications, that being cell phone networks, landlines, even, and also the internet. So, taking out logistics. So, you counter value targets. That's going to be ports, banking systems, and the supply chains of other critical services and goods that the nation relies heavily on to survive. Drones over airports, rendering commercial flights grounded, cancellations and disruptions, causing a headache for the government. We're not the enemy, guys. The governments are to each other, and if the enemy can cause the people to turn against its own government, that is a strategy of war, better known as divide. Well, that would be divide and conquer. Anyway, there's two terms. You've got divide and conquer, divide and rule. Civil unrest, and turning us all against each other. It's kind of what seems to be happening at the moment. As we finish off, we're all seeing now the flexing of nuclear muscles between two superpowers at the moment. That's being America and Russia. They're announcing the full-blown testing of nuclear weapons. And why? Because it's simply flexing the muscles, all of which was seen immediately after World War II, right up until 1991, where the nuclear threat was central and a constant part of political power. But that was reaching a peak during, for any of you guys that remember, the Cuban Missile Crisis back in 1962. I wasn't around then, but I know about it. When the US and the Soviet Union came closest to nuclear war. So, for anyone that doesn't know, just quickly, the Cuban Missile Crisis was off of the back of a 13-day confrontation back in 1962 between the United States and the Soviet Union that brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. It was pretty close, guys. The crisis began when there was an American spy plane discovered. It was flying over Cuba, and it discovered the Soviets building nuclear missile sites. Well, there was nuclear missile sites under construction in Cuba, and it ended up when the Soviets agreed to dismantle those sites in exchange for the US pledge not to invade Cuba. And I think there was an agreement to remove US missiles from Turkey or something along those lines. But that was the closest. And today we have another conflict in South America between America and Venezuela, supposedly over drug cartels. Another load of rubbish that doesn't make any sense. And the reason why that doesn't make any sense to me is, if that was the overall objective, then why isn't the Venezuelan government helping the Americans? I mean, if it's a problem in my country and someone's going to come and help resolve it, then I'm going to help them resolve it, not go to war with them. So instead, they're preparing for war. Russia have now announced that they will be supporting Venezuela. Um, so that would be, that would be the ultimate. That would be the ultimate excuse needed, really, for Russia to legitimately get weapons closer to America. Again, guys, all speculation. But we can do one of two things here, and that, for me and for you, we can either sit here listening to the likes of the bullshit, the politicians, feed constant streams of lies our way, or we can just adopt some common sense and logic and just see it for what it really is. Those lies are there to deflect us, from the truth. We can be told that the Americans are fighting the cartels when, in fact, no, they're securing the region for oil deposits in the ground, and/or an excuse for the Russians to move military assets closer to the US mainland. And when we talk about logic, there are many things happening in America at the moment that I'm kind of reading about, and I don't know. I don't know if it's the same for you guys. There's a lot going on in America, but there's no root cause. Why? There's no. I'm one of these. I'm like a kid actually. Well, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? That's not the information we're getting. We're just getting told that that's what people are doing. Um, and it seems to be that it points to war preparations, and I've been saying for months now. Well, why would they be doing that? The war in Europe, for example, when it kicks off, is 4,000 miles away from the US. If they kick off, that's the US kick off with China. That's 7,000 miles away. And the same for is it North Korea. It's roughly the same, 7,000 miles away, something like that. So, with that in mind, I've always assumed an enemy from within over in America. So that could be terrorists, dirty bombs, sabotage on critical infrastructure. And there are other possibilities, such as an EMP being dropped from a satellite. But now we have conflict brewing up in South America and an opportunity for the Russians to move assets into that region in support for the Venezuelans. Wink, wink. It's like the Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0. Anyway, that's it, guys. There's a little bit of a rant, I suppose. Let's get those items off the table, and let's let's get back to prepping, shall we, guys? That's it. I just wanted to sort of keep this one short. A quick update on the news. I don't want this to be a news channel at all. It's just hard. I'm hoping some of this news is valuable. It helps you kind of make a decision on whether you should or shouldn't be preparing. That choice is entirely up to you guys, and don't rely on this channel and my information for that. Just for that, get out and see what everyone else is saying. But I will forewarn you: there's a lot of people out there talking a load of bollocks. Anyway, I have a couple of videos that I put on hold. I put on the back burner, prepping sort of videos that I'm going to return my attention to, and they will be more prepping videos as opposed to sort of filling your time with these bullshit political news sort of articles. Hopefully, you're getting yourselves out there and getting some exercise in there, guys. Even just some walks, and you're just keeping an ear to the ground and just keeping in touch with what's actually happening. To that end, guys, I'll be back soon.